happened upon this presentation that was offered by the Florida Virtual Library system back in the fall. And after that, I was meeting with one of our academic library directors, and I've heard from other academic library directors that since COVID, it's been a challenge to get students to come back into the library. They hunker in their dorm rooms, everything's online. And I understand some of you may be feeling threatened that you might be losing some of your library space. So I thought Jessica's presentation, even though it's hard to still think post-pandemic, things are definitely different. So I'm going to hand it over to Jessica. And like Susan said, feel free to put any of your questions in chat. Enjoy the program. And thank you, Jessica, for being here.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that so much. So, this is definitely a topic that I'm passionate about, and you'll be able to tell that through the presentation. But the biggest thing, and we discussed this before we even began the presentation, is that when we learn things, we need to share it with our colleagues so that they can grow and learn these same things. And everything I'm sharing with you today, we really just did trial and error. That's going to be a lot of what you see today. But I also reached out to other librarians all across the country when I saw they were doing really cool marketing things, and just said, hey, can you share? And I'll be honest, some didn't, but the majority of them did. And so that made this process that much easier. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Jessica Daly. As they said, I work in normally sunny Orlando, but actually today we're in the 40s with rain, and really kind of high winds. Thankfully, I am working with you, but working from home today. I had to get out in it yesterday. It was the same thing. But we are, doing the best we can. We're thankful that it's not freezing here. We're thankful that we don't have snow like northern Florida right now. So we'll take this. And all of my family in North Carolina, I know they all started getting snow last night, and it's even snowing at the beach in North Carolina. So those have been some cool pictures that family has been sending me. So part of my role at Orlando Health is being head of library outreach and marketing. And so I had to figure out on my own how to do that. And so I'm going to share that story with you today and hopefully give you some encouragement, hopefully give you some ideas. And then you will now have me as a contact that you can reach out to if I can help in any way. So the first question is, why promote the library? So I came into my current role actually in a couple, like 1 week, it will be my 3-year anniversary here at Advent Health University. And I came in from a role working as a research librarian in a hospital system, but I worked with patients and families. And so I was out in the community, I was working with our patients, and it was very similar to what I do in the academic library, but just with patients within the hospital. And prior to that, I also worked in a university setting at Liberty University with research and instruction. So all of this really kind of came together in this role where I'm in academic again, but I'm also with medical research. So it's been a great journey. But after coming in a couple months, right on the heels of the COVID pandemic ending and us trying to get back to normal, I realized that our library was empty. And so I realized we had to do something. And so I started doing some in just on my own research about promoting your library. And at that time, everybody was really trying to scramble and figure out, what do we do now that everything has changed? So, number one, please remember that libraries are important institutions. No matter what resources are out there for people online, you have to know how to maneuver them, how to navigate that. So, you still need a librarian. And that's what a librarian does. They help people find the information that they need. And so, you need to understand that. You need to have that mindset that you are essential. Also, we're facing challenges because we have competition from other information and entertainment sources. But instead of working against those, we're going to talk about today how to work with those, let them help us, use them to our advantage. And so we've got to promote ourselves. It's not being conceited, it's not being boastful or prideful. But in a way, it really is. If we don't toot our own horn about what's happening in our library, no one else will. So here's a few reasons that were focus areas for me why I thought we needed to promote the library. Number one was just to raise awareness because when I came into my library, I thought, wow, this is a beautiful space. The whole side of our library focuses out to a lake, absolutely gorgeous. The facility was great. The technology we had was up to date. Our resources were really amazing. I thought they were even better than the hospital system I came from. And so I thought, okay, we have all this, but as I have conversations across campus with faculty, with students, and even staff, they don't know these things exist because for the past 2 years, they've not been in our physical space. So, especially new faculty and staff, new students, they started with us during COVID. They had no idea about what we had. So, you want to highlight unique things about your library. Every library is different. Even different universities and colleges I work with that they have different locations or several libraries. Even those are different. So, you've got to figure out what's unique about us. How do we benefit our users? And then communicating your relevance. You have to tell others why you are relevant, why you are needed, why you are a support system within your academic institution or your community. And then you have to differentiate yourself. You have to see, okay, how are we different? What do we offer that maybe others don't? And then that's also where we get into the internet, social media, online platforms. And then we always want to increase user satisfaction. So our library does an annual library survey that's online. We do it for faculty, students, and staff. And we also actually give away prizes. We make a really big deal out of it. This year, we're going to do some prize baskets. And so, everybody that does the survey and submits their name, because you can do it anonymously, but if you submit your name and email, that goes into a computerized pot that picks out one staff, several students, and one faculty member that receive a prize for participating. So you've got to have that user satisfaction. You have to make sure that there's some loyalty there, that you're building relationships. Okay, so this is what campuses look like before COVID-19. Large groups of students, very packed out classrooms. Normally, to most degrees, a large percentage of your classes were in person. Well, this is post-pandemic academics. This is what it looks like now, or at least the majority of our students at Advent Health University. This is what it looks like. So, to give you a little rundown of what we're looking at right now, our campus has changed greatly. How our students use our library, how they study, how they work together, all of that has changed. So, instead of us looking at that as bad, I wanted to change the mindset of our team, our library team, to say, okay, this is how it is. So, what can we do? How can we adapt? So, these were the changes for our campus. We were pretty much all in person, except for our satellite campus in Denver. But they also would go in person, even though they would, it was almost like a telecommunication system where maybe a professor here in Orlando was giving a live lecture on our campus. Then our students in Denver would take part in that, but they would do that from their campus. But now that has changed. Now we really have either hybrid or online students. So even our students who still come to our campuses, they're hybrid. Part of their courses could be online, part are in person, and a lot of our in-person classes are hybrid, which means, of course, you guys know this, but I'm preaching to the choir, but they may come to class certain weeks of the semester or trimester, and then others they might do Zoom or Teams. I'll get it in a second. Teams meetings. What we're seeing a lot, especially like take our nursing program, a lot of their lecture is now online, and then their clinicals, their hands-on, their labs, those are all on campus. We are a commuter student campus, so we only have about 75 students that live in our housing. So our focus, even in Denver here, and now our new campus in Tampa, they are commuter campuses. We do have one student housing facility that's about a half mile from our campus. It is a renovated, was an apartment complex. We bought that, and our students live there. Most of our students that live there are our out of state or students from other countries that decide to come to our university. And only one of our departments, and we have either 8 or 9 departments, is fully in person, and that's occupational therapy. And the staff, students, and faculty actually voted on that. And they had, I think, over 90% said that for this program, they wanted to be in person. So here is a slide that I share with a lot of presentations that I give, and that is growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So I hope I don't step on any toes, but I'm often told that I am the round librarian fitting in a square peg. And what that means, it's a compliment. I take it that way most of the time, is that I think outside the box and I don't think things have to stay like they always have. And here's the thing, there is comfort in things remaining the same. Let me just say that. When things change and things are shaken up, it can be either really exciting or it can be really upsetting. And so you have to be really careful when you're introducing new things, especially into a library setting, because often librarians, along with educators, and I'm both, so I can say this, we like things to stay the same. If it's always worked, why change it? But things aren't staying the same. And since the pandemic, they have changed greatly. So I just share this because it's all in how we look at it. I won't read all of these, but I love challenges help me grow. I don't like to be challenged. So it's just how we're going to face these things. The attitude that we have going into it makes all the difference. So here is my quote that I had to say over and over and over to my team. Before COVID-19, students and faculty came to the library for resources and assistance. They just knew we were there, word of mouth from other students, from their faculty, from their professors. But post COVID-19, we must go to the students and faculty in order to share our resources and methods of assistance. So the tables turn. We normally could just sit in the library, wait online. They knew to come to us. That is no longer the case. I remember my years at Liberty University. Our library really was like the hub of the university. It was a beautiful facility. People were in there and from open to close every day. It was just a bustling, great atmosphere. We never had to really promote out to students about the library. They might have heard about it at orientation or on a college visit weekend, but we never had to worry about that. But that has changed. So, outreach and marketing. So, this was a completely new concept for my library. So, let me just say that up front. You may encounter opposition. So, be really careful in how you introduce this. But here's what I used to really hit home with my folks, and that was that we needed to stay relevant and I wanted to keep my job. And so, what I had to show them, unfortunately, for many libraries, they have downsized or they have been moved to a very small physical location, or librarians have even and staff have even been let go because of cuts. So we have to show our relevancy. We have to be out there. People have to see us on campus. So I just shared we've got to make others aware of what we're doing and how important we are to not only student success, but faculty success. And we also had to reach out to leadership. We had to help them understand how important the library was to the success of the university. So we needed to make student, staff, and faculty aware of 3 areas. And these were the 3 focuses that I started with. And you could start with just one. Number one, we had a great, just beautiful collection. It was just so rich, so full, but people didn't know. Our services, we had so many ways of helping students and faculty but no one knew about these things that we could do. And then ways to receive assistance. So I wanted students to know no matter what your comfort zone is, whether that's email, um, if that is, doing a FaceTime, if that is a Zoom meeting, if that is a chat, however, you can reach us and get assistance at your own comfort level. But a lot of people didn't know that. So the first thing we did was create a plan because I knew if we don't have something in writing, if this doesn't look professional, if this doesn't look well thought out, people aren't going to take this serious. So I created the very first in the spring of 2023, the first library outreach and marketing plan for our library. And so I'm going to go over just the parts of it to give you an idea of what we were doing. So, number one, I listed the projects. So, you can have more, you can have fewer, but these were the things that I said within the next year, this is what we're going to focus on. This is our plan. I wanted physical space displays. We had a wonderful chat service that was not being used. So, I wanted to promote that. We started having audiobooks for the first time in this library's history. And so, I wanted to promote that. Our small group of student housing folks, those 75, they're important and they really didn't know about the library and the library had never reached out to them. I'm going to mention a program called Faculty Library Champions that we started, how we did our social media promotions, and then also we started a health literacy webinar series. Well, then you got to identify your key partners. So, who are the people on your campus or in your library, in your community that you need to make this happen? Who do you need to partner with? So, number one for me was my library director, and that might be your library dean, whoever is the top person in your library. That is who you need to get on board very first. So we had several meetings where I shared ideas, and he was very open to this concept, which was great. Didn't take a lot of convincing with him to get on board. Number two was our social media team at our university. Then we have a department called Community and Student Engagement. So I touched base and started conversations with them. The Dean of Student Housing, I had to have her on board in order to outreach to these students. We have an online student director at our campus. So I was like, okay, I need to meet with her. She's key. Our faculty library champions, which are faculty ambassadors for our library. And then the library, and I see a typo, but the library administrative team, our whole team had to be had to have buy-in for this to work. So one of these folks was social media. So here's what I found out when I first started this journey. Our library had no personal social media. So we did not have a Facebook, an Instagram, a Snapchat. We had nothing going on for social media. So when I talked to my director about this and talked to some of the other folks on our team, they said, well, Jessica, years ago before the pandemic, we tried, it wasn't successful. And so, because of just compliance laws and all kinds of legal situations, they just dissolved those platforms for us. So, we don't have anything with social media. So, then I got to thinking, okay, well, we have a social media team at our university that they know how to do this. They're experts in this, it's their job. Why not reach out to them and talk to them about sending them content for them to post? And then I thought that'll be a bigger audience as well because all of the students, faculty, staff, everybody is usually connected to these social media platforms for the school. So why not partner? So it's been a beautiful partnership. Let me just say, I reached out to our social media director. She's awesome. I just shared with her, hey, we would love to promote the library. How can this work? I don't want it to be too much work on you. I will do all I can, but I would love if we could work together. So here's what we really agreed to. Number one, she was thrilled because she said, due to activities not really being in person and a lot of students on campus like we were used to, let's think this was 2 years ago, she needed content. And so she said, Jessica, anything you think of, send my way. She said, but I cannot promise that I'm going to post it. So if you're okay with that, We'll make this happen. So I was happy with anything. So I told her that was absolutely perfect. So I wanted to show a couple examples of some things we would do with her. We did some posts called Did You Know? And what I did was I did some facts and some things about the library, probably about 10 or 15 of them, and I sent them to her. And then as she needed content, she created this slide and this post, and this was one off of Instagram. And she would use this on Instagram and Facebook. And anytime she needed content, she'd put a little R.A. Williams Library Did You Know slide. So this is one that says students can conveniently park on campus after 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday to use the library at night. So this was one of the things we did. Also, when we would have events, I would send these to her ahead of time so that she'd know you got to be professional and work with these folks, get the content to them as quick as you can. So things like our pet therapy visits she's had on there. Now, this last slide I think is really important. And this is have you've got your phone with you, and you can ask permission, but when you see great things happening in your library, take pictures of it. So this was just a group of nursing students who were using our portable monitors. They were using our group work areas. And so I just asked, can I get a quick picture of you guys? And they loved it. So it was a way to promote the library. This was no time constraint. So I sent this to our social media person and said, hey, post this whenever you can. So just be thinking about taking pictures of different things happening, showing your library being used. I also connected with our student missions department that does student life. And so our events happening in the library, they began to post them on their weekly email out to students. So I didn't have to do a separate newsletter or email out. I connected with someone that's already doing it, and they were happy to include us. So, what were the goals of our marketing plan? Well, it was to create meaningful connections, and that's what I was able to do. We utilized all avenues of promotion. So, I just had to have conversations with people and say, hey, how can we partner together? And then our awareness that we were trying to increase was for our physical space, our resources, and our services. So, that message stayed consistent when I would talk to people. These are our goals. This is what we want to do. Well, you also have to have groups of focus. So, who are your focus groups? And this could just be one or two. I had our Denver campus, our online campus, our Orlando campus, and all of our faculty. So, pretty much our students and faculty were my focus. And then remember, we've always got to have that data. We've got to show on paper that what we're doing is working or is making a difference. So, some ways that I did that or things that I pulled from that we already had was our annual library survey, our physical attendance. We have a counter on our door. Our chat statistics, they were going up. Live answer statistics, our research consults, looking at the number of those, how our ebooks were being used, our journal and database usage, our social media engagement. We actually kept up with the likes, the shares, the comments, and then webinars that we would hold, of course, the attendance there. But we even looked at our ILL, I'll get it in a minute, our interlibrary loan requests, and also our audiobook usage. So we wanted to get a baseline, what's happening maybe the year before you begin promoting, get all those numbers, and then see if those numbers increase. And then when we do all this, who are we going to share this with? Because remember, we got to promote ourselves. So I was going to share it with the library team first, administration at our university, our library champions, which are faculty members that are our ambassadors, faculty and staff in general, and then also the student body. We wanted everybody to know, hey, this is what we've been doing, and these are our results. So then things adapted. We were learning. And so then in 2024 or our 23-24 school year, we got a little more formal. We looked a little more put together and we did a library outreach report. And so we just continued to grow. We continued to learn more. And so I want to share a little bit about that because I found out that ACRL, which is Association of College and Research Libraries, they had come up with competencies for academic library outreach work. And so this was great because this was a credible source that I could use when talking about promoting the library. So it was approved in October of 2023. Some of you may or may not be familiar with this, but take a look at these. There are 18 competency standards, so you can choose from them. So I knew, and I hope you know, you can't tackle all 18. So here's what we did. We chose 6. Now you can choose 3, you can choose 2. It is really up to you and your library team how many you pick. But these were the things that we chose. Now I'm going to tell you, if it's cheating, oh well. But we also picked things that we were already doing, but not at the level we wanted. We weren't getting the results we wanted. So we picked things that we weren't starting at ground zero, but we were just going to grow and hopefully increase these areas. So number one was user engagement. So we wanted not only people coming into our physical space more, but we wanted to increase the use of our library online as well, because that's how students, the majority of students, want to use our services. So things like before the pandemic, students came in for in-person consultations. Well, that was no longer something they wanted to do. I'll tell you, I've been there 3 years and I've done about 2 in-person consults in 3 years. Everyone, even our students that come to campus, want to do consults online virtually. And that's fine with me because I don't care as long as I help them. We wanted to really think about diversity and inclusion, about all of our library users. Were we really helping each user? Were we providing what they needed? Marketing, so that was an area we knew we were growing. Creating ads and digital media and those types of things that we had never been trained to do. I will put a little plug, we're not getting any money in any way, but we do use Canva quite a bit. And we still use Microsoft products and things like that, but Canva has been an investment that we've chosen to do that makes it easier to create videos, posters, social media posts, all kinds of things. And then networking. We had to get out of the library, go to things, talk to people, have meetings with different departments, and really integrate ourselves into the university. Programming. We wanted to develop new programming that we had never had before, or maybe adapt it so that people were learning at the library. And then teaching. We really wanted to increase our presence in the classroom, and I do think that is something that has happened. Okay, so I wanted to show you just a couple pages from how we set up our latest library outreach plan. What we did is we took other libraries. We took 5 other libraries that were very similar to us, not exact, but they were all health science or medical libraries in academic institutions. And we wanted to just see what they were doing versus what we were doing and just compare ourselves, because we do want to see what they're doing for ideas, but also, are we doing enough? And so then with each of the competencies I chose, this one is just user engagement. We made a list of what we were doing in the library and then also what we saw other universities doing and ways we could grow. Okay, so we had this great report. It looked great. It really showed us in this positive light. But then what are you going to do with it? So when your library director sees it, that's great. But then we decided, okay, we need to present to leadership. So we had the chance to sit down with our provost and our library team and meet, and we presented this report, talked about it, shared it with her. And I really want to tell you, I think that was a turning point for our library in this area because it made her aware of what we were doing. And it gave her something tangible, this report, to share with other people. So growing our library and our services and marketing, or our outreach and marketing, we wanted to grow it. We wanted to see where can this go. It's a constant changing growth pattern. So know that up front. So number one, I'm going to encourage you as a personal professional, and also if your library chooses to have a LinkedIn page, I want you to utilize LinkedIn. And I'm just going to tell you on several different degrees, it is very helpful. Number one, it connects you with other professional librarians. They can see what you're doing, you can see what they're doing. I have such amazing connections through LinkedIn from librarians all over the world that we have shared and we have talked and we have brainstormed about things. And it's just been awesome, especially in this area of marketing. So I really encourage you to do that. But the other flip side of that is put things that your library is doing on your LinkedIn page. Let others know what's happening in your library, because here's what I found happen. Other faculty, staff, and our leadership within our university are connected with me on LinkedIn. So make sure you go in and do that too. Connect with people within your university, your college, your library, so that they can see what you're doing. And I found this was a great way for them to actually learn more about the library when they would see these posts. So here are a couple examples I wanted to show you. Again, had my phone with me. I went around one day. It took me about 5 minutes, and I took some pictures of students utilizing our space. And I just put, it makes my librarian heart happy to walk through my library and see students using the space we created for them. Very, very simple. But a lot of people commented on this, like this. Over 816 people saw this. And what else we learned is that, again, people within our university are seeing this. And so it makes you visual. They see you, they're aware of what's going on. Otherwise, they might not be, because let's be honest, a lot of faculty and leadership are not going to take the time or have the time to come over and walk through the library. So you're doing that for them. And then this post is really exciting because Karen Marshall, or Karen Ben Marshall, is my provost. So she came over and we were doing a faculty book giveaway after we had done a large weeding project. We let our faculty come and look through the titles before we donated those to charity. And so we did a book giveaway. She came over and took my picture with the pile of books that she was taking. I had no idea this is what she was going to do. And then she posted this on LinkedIn. So this was a great advertisement, but a great support because she saw what we were doing. Okay, so I promised that I would talk a little bit about faculty library champions. This is a program that I'm so proud of. And I'm proud of it because of the faculty members that participate, and they've made it a success. So here's what I did. I started looking at marketing and I said, what do all companies, products, businesses do for marketing? They try to find a celebrity sponsor, or they, like a representative for their product. Because if this sports champion likes this product, I might like that product. Or if this comedian loves these chips, I might love these chips. So I saw that pattern and I thought, okay, who are the celebrities on our campus? And I thought, our faculty, some of them are truly celebrities, like people love them. And so I went to our research and instruction librarian and I said, okay, can you make me a list of the faculty that you feel like are our library users, supporters? Can you identify them? So she gave me a list of about 25. And she said, I work really in depth with each of these. They let me in their classrooms, they bring their students here. They're just huge supporters of the library. So I created this short little 1.5 minute long video asking them to become champions of the library, ambassadors on our campus, really just to be our celebrity spokesperson. And I sent emails out with the video explaining. So I've got the visual, I've got the written, and I initially had 8 faculty members respond. And then 2 more were added later. So we now have a total of 10. And all I asked from them were 2 things. Number one, permission to use their headshot, and if they would write a quote about the library. It could be about our library staff, the library space, their student success from the library, anything they wanted. And then we put those or created posters and slides from that. So I'll give you an example. This is one of our First ones, this is Dr. Fawn. She is one of our professors in occupational therapy. She is beloved, and there's a reason. She's absolutely incredible. I work with her OT students with health literacy, and she's incredible. But this was her picture, and then this is her quote. AHU Library is a one-stop shop for resourceful services and supports. AHU librarians are the best. They are knowledgeable and always go above and beyond to help me and the students keep up to date with new research papers because she is a researcher, and that is what she does. So we couldn't have paid someone to have written anything any better. So all 8 of our initial library champions and now 10 have their photos with their quotes, and we put these anywhere we can. Like I said, on our library monitors, on actual large posters that we put on displays throughout the library, and we change those out every few months, and people love them. And then this past summer, we did a program called Library Champion Chats. We came up with this whole concept of the R.A. Williams Library Gazette. And what we asked each of the library champions was one question. Can you share with us a book that changed your life? And so not only is this including them, we have their face still, but now we have these personal, beautiful stories. I was in tears with a lot of them. This actual professor from radiography and advanced imaging, he is fantastic, Lucas, and he actually was sharing about this book, and this is where he got the name for his daughter. And then there were so many others, but this is what you can do with just quotes, their pictures. But here's the other thing. They were then going to their staff meetings and sharing about the library. They were then promoting in their classrooms the library. They were seen as ambassadors, and they really did take that to heart. Okay, I mentioned earlier our AHU housing students. I wanted to show a little bit about them and what we did for them. So how did I even begin? Well, I had to set up a meeting with the Dean of Housing. And here is something that may or may not be in your comfort zone, and that is reaching out to people on your campus and asking for a meeting. Here's the thing. If they don't do it, it's okay. It really is. I've reached out to people to have meetings and never heard responses, and that's okay. I don't take it personal. But you never know until you reach out, and you have to take that step. So we met, we shared what she thought the students needed, what they would enjoy. We discussed ways of sharing the resources. We just really wanted to love on these students and let them know, hey, the people in the library are super nice and they care about us. So we had some ideas, and I want to show a couple pictures of what we did. The first thing is we do Christmas goodie bags for them. Now, again, understand, I've got 75. Some of you have thousands on campus. So it's different things, different ways of making this happen, especially with budget. But we created some little goodie bags, and then we had this little bookmark that was attached or was put inside with a QR code that connected them to the library. So we had the most wonderful responses from this. They just felt so special. Well, then we also did a Taco Tuesday night for our student housing. And so again, budget I know goes into it. Let me be honest with you. While these pictures are great, and we had probably about 25 students come out, we actually decided afterwards that for the work, the money, the investment, everything that we did, that this was not the route for us. So can I just say that? I'm being transparent. As great as it was for the students who came, they did learn a little about the library. They met me. We just felt like the invested amount of money didn't really give us the return we wanted. So we're focusing more on the goodie bags at different times of the year, and we have seen great results from that. So again, this was our an example of this year's back to school bags. We just created little baggies for them, had a little card attached inside with the QR code. And what this I want to show you is, this is what I posted on LinkedIn. I shared about the goodie bags, that kind of thing. So then look what happened. Our provost, Dr. Ben Marshall, saw it. She reposted. So even more people saw it. So again, this is what I wanted to prove to you, that your leadership and your administration sees these posts. So you want to connect with them online, but then they're going to see what you post. So again, be careful with what you post if that's the case. But promoting your library is a great way to connect with them. Okay, so we have now two satellite campuses in Denver and in Tampa. So if you have satellite campuses, if you have different locations, make sure you're connecting with these people. Make sure that you are outreaching to them as well. These were the steps that I took and some of the things that I did, met with their leadership, met with their faculty. We did a student survey just of their campus. We did Library 101 live webinars, but I'm going to be transparent again. This was one of those, it was a great idea and it failed. We presented it 3 different times at different like different days, different times of the day, even one at night because the Denver campus are 2 hours behind us. And we had one student attend all 3 sessions, like one total. So we realized this wasn't the route we had to go, which is fine. That happens. We also have a popcorn machine where we do popcorn every Wednesday in our Orlando library. So we sent them a popcorn machine. We send them promotion posters and slides just like we create. We put their logo for Denver on it. We wanted to promote personalized experience. We wanted their students to know that we cared. We wanted to meet with them and that they had access to everything our Orlando students did. We would have contests and activities with them. And we also asked their professors, hey, let us come in your Teams or your Zoom classroom and share things, introduce ourselves so that they're familiar with us. Okay. One of the things I want you to focus on when you're thinking about this is finding an unutilized service. Maybe something that you offer that is great, but it's not being used in the capacity or the number you want to see much more usage. So what I did is I looked at the past 3 years stats. I looked pre-COVID-19, after COVID-19, and I chose the service of our chat. So the first few things I did had to do with online and physical. We came up with chat with us. That was our theme. And we had QR codes with this little chat with us symbol all over our physical space. So every area that you could work was one of these. So if you were working and wanted to chat with us really quick, you could. We put things on our slide, our monitors. We put them all across campus. And then we even did a contest. This was last year's around Valentine's Day. So we did a Valentine's Day theme and we let everybody understand that if they used chat from February 1st through the 13th and they left their name and their email, that we were going to put those in a hat and we actually gave away some Stanley Cups, which they loved. But we made sure that we had a winner from the Orlando campus and also from our Denver campus, representation from both, and that went over great. But then I realized, okay, we're doing all this to promote chat, but is there a need that we're not addressing? And so when you pilot a new idea, I really encourage you to discover the need, brainstorm ways, creating a plan. When you go to your library director or you go to other librarians on your team, have something in writing, have a plan. Present this plan, gain permission to implement it, promote it. You got to track that progress and then report back and you figure out, are we going to grow from this or are we going to stop this? Just like those Library 101 videos or webinars. We had to scratch those. I went through this process, but it just was not right for us. So I developed an idea or a need. I saw that our students in Denver, we close on weeknights at 9 p.m. here in Orlando. Well, that's 7 p.m. in Denver. And I realized that a lot of our students in Denver were going back to school, already had families. And I knew this because I talked to their administrators and their faculty, their professors. And for a lot of them, 7 p.m. at night might be when they're getting home and trying to do dinner and homework and put kids to bed. And they may not start their work until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And so I was like, okay, we need to do something, have a chat, have our chat service open to them at night. So this is where we're going with that. And we called it Late Night at Your Library. So I went to my director with this plan and said, hey, I'm willing on Wednesday nights, if I can do it working from home, I'm willing to stay on chat until 11 p.m. our time, 9 p.m. Denver time. And we're going to do this for a whole trimester. We do trimesters instead of semesters. And I'm going to do it every Wednesday night. We'll look at the progress and we'll see what we want to do from there. So we did it. We did have really great participation, but we also heard from students that Wednesday night was not enough, and some of them couldn't get to me on Wednesday nights. So they really wanted more, and we saw the need. And so in January of 2024, a year ago, it's hard to believe, we implemented a 24/7 live chat service through Spring Share. And so now our students are covered. We looked at the cost versus our student number. We were able to afford that. Again, it is a financial investment, but you have to show the need for it. And we were able to show that need with our data that we collected from that trimester that we offered the one night a week. So I wanted to share this just to give you an example of how things can grow and how now our students have this wonderful service 24/7, no matter where they are in the world. All right. And I'm going to end today talking about new connections. So you need to always be looking for ways, looking for ideas of putting the library into different things or ways of bringing people into the physical space. So I partnered with the Center for Faculty Excellence at our university. I saw that they were offering faculty events, faculty lectures, and I thought, hey, instead of them just reserving a classroom on campus, what if some of these events and these things could happen in the physical library? Because then I'm getting faculty physically in our space. So they're reminded of how wonderful it is. They're reminded of it being such a great resource and service for their students. So this is just one picture of an example. They had like a floating event, just like a social floating event for faculty, and we held it in the library. And I know a lot of people on our team, I'm going to be honest, they were concerned about disruptions, noise, all this kind of thing. But I really wasn't, because we do have a quiet area in our library that's on our bottom floor in the very back where students can go. And, I just think it's worth taking that chance. This was not a loud event. We put it in an area that most students were not in. It was at a time during the day where most students were in class. So be aware of those things. Be aware that there could be concern about noise. That's always a concern for librarians. But these events have been great. They have caused a lot of attention to our physical space. Then I also said, okay, we need to have some ongoing events that happen in the library for students, and things that aren't necessarily academic, things that help them to decompress, because the mental health of our students is such a concern. Why can't the library get in on that? Why can't we be a mental health supporter of our students? So these are two of the things that we do every week. One is origami in the library. One of our student workers is, I think, a genius, and he does origami. It's beautiful. It's very relaxing. And so every Tuesday he comes in and he sets up at one of our larger tables. And I am amazed at faculty, staff, students who come by, and it's just been a beautiful experience. We also do Keep Calm and Color On. So on Thursdays from 4 to 7, we have that big area of tables again, and we just put out adult coloring sheets, colored pencils, and it's just a way of kind of escaping, coming over to that area. And we've even tossed around the idea of just having an area all the time. We just aren't sure, we don't want to take up space other students might need for study. But these are the kind of events. Another one I didn't even put on here is we already had a knitting club, a knitting and crocheting club, which is really big with a lot of young people right now. And one of our young, I say professors in her 20s, she is heading that up, and they were meeting random places. And so we were like, hey, why don't you meet in the library on our comfy couches and chairs and have your club. So they do that. They're every Wednesday. So again, not a lot of work on us. Are you seeing this? Think of ways of getting people to come into your space that's not a huge amount for you with time or with money. And then if you can tap into students or staff that want to help with this and kind of sponsor it, that is even better. So keep an eye out about events going on your campus. And you can always send them an email, whoever heads it up, and say, hey, we'd love for you to meet in the library. Or have you ever thought of meeting in the library? That is such kind of that olive branch also. And it just brings more people in. Okay, so I am finishing. I think it's 11:22, and so I'm going to now turn it over to any comments, any questions that you all may have, and I'll stop sharing.
Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat right now. People, you can feel free to put them in the chat, or if you want to do the raise hand icon, and you can just say your question since we're in meeting format. I did have one question while we're waiting to
Sure.
see if anyone wants to take you up on that. I was wondering how you got the information about the comparable libraries when you did that, looking at the other health university libraries. How did you get that information about what they were doing?
So that was a time consuming process because I had to do that on my own, use those research skills. And so I really just started looking up other health science universities, colleges, and libraries. And then I tried to narrow that down so that they were smaller, like ours is. And then I chose about 10, and I actually reached out to all 10 of the libraries and asked for any information that they could give. And those five were actually the ones that got back. So again, reached out to 10, only five got back to me. But that was the process. It took me, I would say, about 3 or 4 weeks, about a month to get all that information. So yeah.
There is a question in chat. Have you tried to get student ambassadors for the library?
Okay, so yes, I'm so glad you asked that. So we did try that, and at our university, it did not work. And let me say this, at our university at this present time, it did not work. So I say that because we could try it 2 years from now and it take off and it'd be great. So here's what we did. I again reached out to some universities that already had library ambassador programs that were super successful, researched what they had done, talked to a few folks from the library that handled the students. I was so excited. I created this whole plan, went through the whole process I shared with you. My library director was on board, our whole team was on board. So we did very similar, sent out a lot of promotions, a lot of videos, things to students, and we asked for participants. We actually got 8 students to reply back. I was so excited. And then it flatlined. All I know is I asked for the students to give me a quote again, like our faculty did, a picture from them. So after a month, we had one student who got back to us and gave us the information we needed. And after that point, we realized, okay, for our students in health sciences in these programs, it's so intense. They are so busy trying to do life and school and everything else. It just was not going to pan out. So we discontinued it for that time. But I feel like, depending on the different universities and colleges, it is a fantastic idea. What we were really hoping to get from that is have these ambassadors actually attend events that the library did, share in their classes, kind of, be that liaison for us. And even we wanted to use them also kind of to pick their brains for ideas for library outreach and marketing. So we did try that. But I'm 100% honest, and I'll tell you, for us right now, it did not work out. But please give it a try, because I think when it does work, it's fantastic.
Okay, and now, how does this impact budgeting? Is there a range to shoot for? And Amy, I assume you mean like a range of a budget for marketing? Um,
Okay, so with that, I'll tell you what I did. When I went with my initial proposal of the projects, I really tried, especially that first year of doing this, to do things that would be either no cost or very small amount of cost. So we already had the programming, we already had the monitors, we already had a poster printer. So I was at an advantage with a lot of that. But definitely create a budget. And if anybody wants to reach out and talk to me about that kind of more in depth, please feel free to email me. One of the things, the main area I needed money for was the outreach to our student housing for their goodie bags, their different things there. We also budgeted in for events and contests that we would have, like what was our, prizes, how much would we want to use there for prizes. So those were my two really large costs. We also would do some like little thank yous along the way for our faculty library champions, little goodie bags and things. So our budget was around 2000, but a lot of times we wouldn't even use all of that. We were just really frugal and smart with that. But it just depends on the size of your college or university, the size of or the scale of the event that you're having. But at the same time, like with our chat contest that we had a certain amount of prizes no matter how many people participated. So that in those areas you could still get away with like maybe even just giving away 3 to 4 prizes to students. And then you can decide on what those prizes can be. We unfortunately can no longer do gift cards, which we hate because students love that. But we can't do that. So our go-to has been things like we've done some portable speakers, we've done um, the Stanley Cups are probably one of our number one things that people love. They just love those. We sometimes put together little prize packs where we have, all kinds of little things. I tap into my 21-year-old daughter for ideas. So we go to her whenever we're looking a new thing to give away. Because it is hard if you can't do a gift card. If you can do things like Amazon gift cards, I think that's number one. They would love that. But it just depends on the money you have available, the budget there. And the first year you may start out and honestly just utilize the things you have in the library, then show the worth, show how that's helping, and then increase that budget. That I know that's what we've done.
Okay, looks like we have time for one more question. And someone asked if you have students that work in the library that they might be able to be student ambassadors. And I don't know if that was part of your original plan.
Well, actually, I think that's great. Our student workers, we do have student workers. We have 7 in our library, and they're fantastic. And they really do kind of have that role within their programs as ambassadors for us. Our director wanted us to have students that weren't library workers because he wanted students to invest in this that weren't being paid to be in the library. So I do think that's an option. I mean, if you wanted to kind of turn your student workers into student workers and library ambassadors, I don't see that that's an issue. I think that could be a great usage of their time and what they do for the library. So that's definitely something to think about. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Kathy to see if she has any closing remarks.
No, I want to thank Jessica for all of the ideas. If you got one nugget of an idea for your library, I would consider that a success. Susan has been posting the evaluation link in the chat. We really do value these. We get the majority of our CE ideas from our members. So if you have any ideas related to this topic or otherwise, let us know. I want to thank Jessica so much for such an informative program and for making herself available for follow-up questions. And one follow-up that I would think about is, as you know, if you're a CDLC member, we are here to help support any programming or any other ideas you have that might come out of this. And I'm sure those of you that are in other regions of the state, you could also reach out to your regional library council. So on that note, I think I'm good. Jessica, I hope you have lots of layers down there, and I can guarantee you it's colder up here. Uh,
Yes, absolutely. Probably everybody on this is colder than I am.
Yes, but we're used to it though. So, and again, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you to Susan for doing a great job. Susan is our CE coordinator, as you know, so you can always reach out to Susan or myself for any ideas or suggestions. Thank you. Stay
Thank
warm.
you, everybody.